Welcome to the Top Dog Mindset Podcast, where we unlock the secrets of running a successful dog training business. I'm your host, Kevin, joined by my co-host, Angel. Together, we bring you expert insights, inspiring stories, and practical tips. Whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out, we're here to provide you with the necessary information to build a thriving dog training company. So relax, join us with a cup of coffee as we explore the Top Dog Mindset Podcast. All right, welcome back, everybody.
Hello.
Angel and Kevin here. We got another cool episode from you guys, and we got some good feedback on the last episode that we did, where we were kind of anchoring our conversation more in like statistics and stuff like that. And so we're gonna try and do some more stuff like that. And starting on this call, we're gonna be talking about something that I found very interesting. I was reading an article about this a couple weeks ago, and this has really kind of been like in my head thinking about this from a business perspective. And it's the idea of something that's referred to as the likability advantage. And what the article is about, what it's titled is Why Being Liked Often Trumps Intelligence in Success. So, Angel, with that being said, we were talking about this a little bit beforehand. Why don't you kind of kick it off and talk like a little bit about what that means to you?
Yeah, well, to put it in, I guess, simpler, non-statistical terms, it really just comes down to being a good person, treating people right with respect and kindness and stuff like that. And it kind of makes me think of this quote, I guess, meme that I'm sure a lot of people have come across at some point of like, you can be considered a beautiful person, like looks wise, but if you don't treat people with kindness or you're just kind of like a shitty person, then you're ugly. You know what I
Mm,
mean? And I feel like a lot of people have dealt with that before where like you might be attracted to someone or have a certain relationship with someone, but the moment that you see like their true colors and how they don't treat people right or with respect or compassion and stuff like that, it really changes your whole view on that person.
yeah.
And to tie it into this specific market, dog trainers, I think it's super important because obviously with any service where you're working with people, you have to know how to network with people and connect with people and build relationships and stuff like that. Um, but more so specifically with dog training, like it is more intimate. You're going into their home, you are having these evaluations where you have to convince people to pay you thousands of dollars in order to help them and basically change their lives.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, just kind of piggybacking off of what you were saying before, I think this is why using like relationships as an example, there can be people who like you find somebody immediately like an attractive person, but you can be turned off by them just because you're like, oh my God, they're brutal to be around, you know?
Yeah, yeah,
And the other way around, where you can be like, hey, that wouldn't necessarily be my type, but their personality is so attractive that like that is like the more important thing, you know?
yeah, exactly.
And so with that being said, just to kind of like tee this up a little bit, the first part of this says, in a world that often glorifies intelligence as the key to success, research and real world examples suggest that being liked can be an even greater asset. While intelligence certainly plays a role in problem solving, innovation, success, partially in business, leadership, and social settings, often hinges more on how well a person connects with others.
Hmm.
So what that really means is like being liked often trumps your level of IQ or level of knowledge on a topic, right? And
Hmm.
so the reason I'm bringing this up is because this kind of validated something that I've felt a long time for, in business and more specifically talking to dog training business owners, which is it's so easy as a business owner to just always focus on becoming the best trainer and feeling like if I do that, then inevitably people are going to want to come and work with me because I'm the best one, and like that's going to speak for itself. But that's just not always the case, you know? There's a
Hmm.
lot of people that I've worked with in the past that have really struggled in business because they have that mindset that they've been doing it the longest and they're like I train other trainers on how to train dogs, so that should mean that every dog owner should want to work with me because I'm kind of at like the top of the totem pole when it comes to training dogs and stuff like that. But the truth is that's not really what matters. That's not why people buy. The reason that
Yeah.
people buy is more, do they like you? Do they trust you? Do they want to work with you?
Yeah, and this is something that we've talked about like in another context, in other episodes,
Yep.
where like even you and I personally, hiring companies for certain services, we have hired them because we like them as a
Yep.
person and because they did a great job at like really connecting with us. And regardless of what their prices were in comparison to the next company, that we talked to,
Yep.
it was just one of those situations where it's like ultimately I just went with them because I really like them. Like they were a great person to just sit around and talk with.
Yeah, I mean, as cringy as it may sound, it's like just good vibes, like that's what
Yeah.
it's all about, just chill ass vibes is really what it comes down to. But it's true. If you just get a bad energy, a bad vibe from somebody, you could be like, yeah, I'm sure they seem like they could do a good job, but I just don't want to give my money to that person, you know?
Hmm.
And it
Hmm.
doesn't need to be that extreme. It just when you really think about this from the perspective of you're asking somebody to pay you 1,000, 2,000, 4, 5, 6 grand in some cases, they are gonna really need to like you in order to pay you money.
Hmm.
It's not
And
something that their people are gonna want to do if they're lukewarm on you, you know?
yeah, and I always said that to clients too whenever I was doing consultations. For those people who said like, oh, we already met with this other trainer, or we'll get back to you because we have one more consultation to do with another trainer, is like, I would always tell them that's great. I think that's super important to like meet with different people because regardless of like regardless of price, regardless of what anyone says that they can help you with, ultimately you do have to have a good connection with that person because they're going to be taking your dog into
Yep.
their home. So you have to trust them, you know what I mean? And they're for people who offer like lifetime support or continued support, that's another thing is this is someone who's going to be in your life for the long term. You're paying them a
Yeah.
lot of money and then they're going to be in your life for a long time. So you have to make sure that you can vibe with them and get along with them. And I think that's super important to point out too, not to go down like a completely different rabbit hole of your clients or potential clients shopping around. But that's just one of those things like rather than, kind of like talking down on other companies or like, oh, well, I heard like those trainers, telling them about something you heard with their company. It's just like, yeah, go for it. You have to be able to get along with everyone.
Hmm.
Ask, here's some important questions to ask and things like that.
Yeah. 100%. So this says, just to kind of hammer that point home, I thought this was interesting. So people do business with those they like, right? We've said that a million times on this podcast that people buy from people that they know, like, and trust. People continue
Hmm.
to work with people that they know, like, and trust. So this starts by saying whether in sales, entrepreneurship, or corporate environments, people tend to prefer working with those they enjoy being around. A study from Harvard Business Review found that people are more likely to buy from someone that they like rather than from someone who simply has the best product. So that right there verifies exactly what we're talking about, where it's like you look at it through the perspective of I'm the best dog trainer. Even if let's use a really extreme example. You're the best dog trainer, but you're kind of an a-hole, and there's somebody else in the market who is a total newbie and they're really not that talented, but they're just super sweet and fun to be around. Ironically, the person who is not as skilled is going to probably have more success because all you're going to do is turn people off and they're going to be people are willing to work with that person and they're willing to even put up with little things that the training the results may not even be as quick, the results in it may not be as strong had you done it, but at the end of the day people prefer to work with people that they just enjoy being around, and that's just validated in like a Harvard study.
Yeah, and like striving to be a better trainer than you were yesterday or even last year is important, and continuing your education is important. Because obviously that's going to show in the results that you put out with people that sign up with you, but also those aren't necessarily things that clients are really looking for or even
Hmm.
noticing in a consultation. Like they
Yeah.
just want to tell you what they're dealing with. They want you to understand what they're dealing with and basically like reassure them that you can help them. But as far as like all the verbiage and, different seminars that you went to and other trainers that have trained under you or anything like that, that
Yeah.
doesn't really mean anything to them.
To the average person. That's a really good point.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. They don't even know what questions to ask. They don't know what any of those accolades or awards or certifications even mean. It adds
Yeah.
some sort of credibility and social proof if you put that on your website or, whatever. You can tell somebody, "Oh, okay, that must mean something." But it really doesn't mean much, to the average
Hmm.
person. The more important thing to them is, do I feel like this person can actually help me? Are they inspiring confidence there?
Right.
So, likable individuals build stronger relationships, foster trust, and create loyal networks, giving them an edge over those who rely solely on expertise. So, that's just a little bit more of the same there. And I want to point out something that you said I think is really true. It's not that we're saying don't get better as a trainer. Obviously, that should be something that you focus on. But I just think that sometimes it's so easy coming from a place of imposter syndrome, which everybody has, or fear that I'm not delivering good enough results to my clients. Most times, you're the only one who's actually feeling that. As the
Hmm.
having worked with over $200 training businesses at this point, what I can tell is like people when they struggle with that, the question I always ask is, how often do you get a client that comes back to you and says, this sucked. This didn't work. I want my money back. I didn't get anything out of this. And almost everybody always says never, you know? Maybe once in
Yeah.
an entire, time running their business, they had one really difficult client who would have been impossible to please anyway. And
Hmm.
so the reason I'm bringing that up is because you can focus on something that's never happened and probably never will happen to you. And you can spend a lot of your time a lot of energy in your business in the wrong place, going to just continuously, feeling less than and not like you're living up to the expectations that you're setting for yourself and for your business. And you go to endless seminars and stuff like that. Again, it's worth going to that. Like I do stuff like that in my own business. But at the end of the day, it's not the main thing you should be focused on. And ironically, like through looking at this, what I would say is most of you listening to this, you don't have a dog training problem. Most of you guys know how to train dogs extremely well. That's not what you should be focusing your time on getting better at. What you should be focusing your time on getting better at is number one, sales, learning how to sell and connect with people. And number two is marketing.
Yeah, sales, marketing, and also just like, um, there's different platforms out there, like the one that you and I are on, as far as just like going on coaching calls
Yeah.
to better what we are doing for our clients, but just like finding different resources out there to help you learn how to connect with people and learn how to talk to people. That's something that I did a very, very long time ago.
Yeah, we were
Was
talking about this a little bit yesterday. I always find this like so funny, but it's honestly very admirable of you that you you told me that. I hope you don't mind me sharing this, airing your
Go
dirty
for
laundry.
it.
That you were like, I was a very shy person, and so you were like, I used to watch YouTube videos on how to communicate better with people and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah. And I remember there was something that someone a long time ago told me to look up, and it was like I can't remember like the exact term, but it was something about body body language mirroring
Hmm.
basically, and how that plays into like connecting with people when you're in like a consultation type of environment. So that's kind of like how I got started on it, and I was terrible about it at first. It was so awkward, but it helped. So like
Yeah,
even YouTube University can help you
yeah,
learn how to just like connect and network with people a little bit more.
yeah. I mean, mirroring like that just makes people feel like they're talking to somebody that's familiar.
Yeah, yeah.
So I got a question: is that why you showed up to your interview with me and had like a fake red mustache on?
Um
That it's all making sense now. You're like you wanted me to feel at home and feel comfortable. It seems like.
I looked you up on Facebook, and I'm
Yeah.
like, I need a red mustache.
Yeah. It's the only way I'm gonna land this gig. Um, so the next thing on here is charismatic leaders often outperform geniuses. So we'll go into that in a second, but I think that's a really interesting one. So they talk about, Richard Branson, who's the owner of the Virgin Group, so Virgin Mobile, I think Virgin Airlines. He's somebody that I've listened to his story, and I think he is dyslexic. Grew up with like learning disabilities and stuff like that. and by all markers was not somebody who was like people were looking at as like, hey, this person's going to be super successful. And
Hmm.
obviously he's a billionaire now, right? Oprah Winfrey's another one. So neither of them is known for being the smartest person in the room, but both built empires through their ability to connect with people. In contrast, some of the more brilliant minds, such as Nikola Tesla, struggled financially and socially due to their lack of interpersonal skills. That's a really good point. You know, I guarantee you there are so many ideas that could have revolutionized industries, changed the world, but never got out there and never did anything because they just died on somebody's desk in their office in their home because they didn't know how to get it out there, which is a really crazy idea to think about.
Yeah, I have a story. So
Seems like you're getting
I
depressed by that idea. You're like, man, that's really sad to hear.
no, it makes me think of this doctor that I used to work with. When I worked in an emergency vet hospital.
Hmm.
And one of the doctors there, I really liked him, but obviously, and everyone else there liked him because we worked very closely with him. But he was the only doctor where people often would make comments to like me and some of the other people on how he was rude and very standoffish.
Okay.
He was also autistic. And so his social skills were very different and off in comparison to the average person.
Sure. Yeah.
But he was a freaking genius. Like he was, I mean, I don't know like his schooling in comparison to the other doctors there, but he was so freaking smart. And there
Yeah.
were there were times where, and he was working with a patient, he'd come to the back and he would literally just like pace because his brain is just like rapid firing, so incredibly smart, but very like socially awkward. And that's
Yeah.
really all people saw. And so they always referred to him as, someone who is rude and standoffish and all that kind of stuff. And he was really not a rude person because I knew him, but that's how other
Yeah.
people who were working with him
Yeah. That's an
referred to him
interesting
as.
thing too.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of people out there. Like it's something that's coming to mind right now. I remember having a conversation with somebody and talking about the pharmaceutical industry and the idea of how salespeople and the guy who starts the company, who's not a scientist in a lab coat usually, is makes all this money from these drugs that other people are developing. And I know that's probably like a political thing that people can get upset about, but when you just think about that and you think about the idea how you can have the greatest idea in the world and you could create like a life saving cancer drug. And but if you don't know how to get it out there and market it and stuff like that, it's irrelevant. And this is why people
Hmm.
like in sales tend to make more money than people who are like the accountant inside of the business or something like that, or even somebody on the financial end or something like that. Not that you can't make money in finances, obviously, if you're in investment banking, all that stuff, but I digress, right? The point is like, I think there's a lot of industries in this world, and there's a disproportionate amount of work that can go into it, and you're not getting paid the same as somebody who's just the person who's able to sell it. And so this is all just to say that it amazes me that there's dog trainers that I know, and I know their heart is in the right place and the intention is in the right place where they'll spend $10,000 going to a mastermind to learn more about dog training and stuff like that. And they'll be like, that makes sense. But then when it comes to maybe spending the same amount of money going through a sales course or something like that, they're like, I'm not paying that much money for something like that. That's ludicrous. It's like
Yeah.
that is the entire thing that keeps your business going. It's the same thing with marketing. Like, I don't want to pay that much for marketing. It's like that is your entire business. There is no dog training without marketing and sales.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's a really good way to put it.
Yeah. So if anyone's taking anything away from this, like that's the main thing. It's like look to invest in yourself in different places. It's not always just about becoming a better dog trainer, because you're not just dog trainers, you're also business owners. And with that being
Hmm.
said, like you need to invest in the different aspects of your business as well.
Yeah.
So the next thing is EQ yeah, EQ versus IQ, right? So emotional intelligence. So psychologists often argue that emotional intelligence is more important than IQ when it comes to long-term success. EQ refers to the ability to understand, manage, and influence emotions, both your own and those of others. A 40-year study at UC Berkeley found that EQ was 4 times more powerful than IQ in predicting career success. Pretty amazing, you know?
Yeah, yeah,
It's really
that's
not
really
about how smart
interesting.
you are. Go ahead, I cut you off there.
No, I was just saying that's really interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't really actually even realize that until recently, that an EQ was even a thing, like
Yeah.
EQ versus IQ. I feel like we talked about this
I just thought that was always
kind of
something that like
recently.
stupid people said, like you have a really low like my EQ is really high though, It's like, okay.
Yeah,
Yeah. No, but
I'd
it's
be
true.
interested in that.
Yeah, I mean, I've 100% come across people, met people in my life where highly intelligent, like savant level type people, but having a conversation with them is like pulling teeth. It's like impossible,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
So the next thing is we were kind of laughing about this before the call, the likability bias in promotions. So this is an important one. A well-documented phenomenon in workplaces is that employees who are liked by their colleagues and bosses are promoted more often than those who are simply high performers. According to a study, hiring managers are more likely to choose someone they enjoy being around, even over a more qualified candidate. So you'll make more money in life, you'll get treated better, you'll go further if people just like you. That's the whole thing.
Yeah. In other words, just be a good person.
Yeah. Yeah, not
Treat
from a
people well.
manipulative standpoint, not
Yeah.
like trying to like force people to like you and lying to them and stuff like that. It's got to be a genuine connection.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, networking and social capital. Networking is one of the biggest predictors of career success, and likability plays a crucial role in expanding social capital. People who are charismatic, warm, and engaging attract more opportunities simply because others want them to. The saying, it's not what you know, but who you know, rings especially true when likability is involved. So, can likability be developed? The good news, as you've demonstrated, right, and have found in life, is that it can be developed. It's a skill that can be improved. There are a few ways to become more likable. Active listening, people who appreciate those who genuinely listen and show interest in them. Authenticity, being genuine and showing vulnerability fosters deeper connections. Optimism and humor, a positive attitude and a sense of humor make interactions enjoyable. And then empathy, understanding and validating others' emotions builds trust. Thoughts?
Yeah. I mean, I think all of this makes perfect sense, and I think I'm pretty sure everyone can relate to this as far, even if it's just like just by saying like that makes sense, but like breaking it down this way and putting it into like these different terms and statistics and all that kind of stuff, I think is really going to be helpful for people.
Yeah, me too. And this is super helpful for me. I think that there's people who their personalities lends itself to being more outgoing and easier to connect with people and stuff like
Hmm.
that. But there's been points in my life too where I feel like I've really struggled in social situations. I think everybody has.
Yeah.
Anytime you have to put yourself out there and do something new, it's going to feel uncomfortable. But I think that the most important thing is what really sucks is the feeling of hopelessness and feeling like I'm just not a people person, so I'll never be good at this. And what this demonstrates and what this shows you in this article is that's just not true. And so I think that like we all need to kind of change our mindsets around that and realize that there's different ways that we connect. And it's so easy to look at another person that you know who's really outgoing and people like them and think, well, I'm not like them, so I'll never be well liked or I'll never be somebody that really can form deep connections. But I've met
Hmm.
some people that have very close relationships who are not gigantic talkers, but when they do talk, they say very valuable things. And so, or they're very funny once you get them going. So you
Hmm.
have your own everyone has their own version of this. You just have to find a
Yeah.
way to unlock that. And usually what I find is people are fearful to really let their true self out around people that they're not comfortable around. But when you think about how do you talk to your sister? How do you talk to your friend? Or how do you joke around with your cousins or whatever it is? Don't be afraid to be like that. I think sometimes people think like that's so weird and I could only be that way around other people. But most people are weird and appreciate a sense of humor. So if you just act like you normally would around the people that you're closest, obviously maybe reel it in a little bit and don't say like super inappropriate things, but don't be afraid. I think a lot of people are going to really appreciate that and connect with that.
Yeah, it's really just all about growth, even if you're for a few consults, you're kind of just like faking it and until you make it, then awesome. But
Yeah.
inevitably, I think just like working on these things is going to help you in so many other areas of life. And we've talked about um like different personalities in another episode, and there's those people too who are like have that mindset where they're like, well, this is just who I am, you like it or you don't kind of thing. And even if you have a mindset like that, like all of the stuff that we went over still rings true. Still work towards like connecting better with people. You can, keep your same personality if you really need to and just say, that's just how I am. I'm super blunt to the point. But again, fake it for the business cause. But inevitably, I
Yeah.
think that's going to you can't fake it for so long. You know what I mean? You're going to see the payoff. It's going to feel better personally. And like I said, you'll see the payoff with business. It's just going to help in life overall. But I think it's even even more important for those people who have that kind of mindset of like, this is just how I am. If people don't like me, then they don't sign up with me.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a second. I know we only have a couple minutes left here, but I think that you and I have discussed this quite a few times, and that type of personality, I don't know, I want to make sure I understand you correctly what you're saying here, but so I'll just throw this out there and then tell me if this is what you're talking about. I've met people in my life, men and women, who have this attitude where they're very blunt, and blunt doesn't go far enough. They're very abrasive, and it almost
Mhm.
seems like they like confrontation, and they tend to also be the people who are always like wrapped up in drama, and they're like, I don't know why drama follows me around. And to me, it's like, well, you're kind of encouraging it by the way that you treat other people. So the type of like attitude I'm talking about is like, I'm just kind of a straight shooter. I don't tiptoe around emotions. I tell people like it is. I call bullshit when I see it, like that type of thing. And I
Yeah.
definitely think there's a place for that to be um it can be loving and compassionate by telling somebody where you think they're wrong in a constructive way. But
Hmm.
I've seen the personality where I don't think that's what they're doing. I think that they cloak what they're doing in this fake sense of morality and virtue and say that's what they're doing, when in reality, what they're doing is just kind of like picking at other people and prodding and just kind of tearing other people down. Do you know what I'm getting at
Yeah.
here?
Yeah, I know what you're getting at. And that's exactly what I was talking about too. And
Okay.
I don't think there's anything wrong with sometimes being blunt and straightforward.
Hmm.
Um, but it's really just about how you come off and is it the time and the place and the situation to come off that abrasive, or do you need to soften up a little bit? Or, with this sweet old woman, do you need to word it a little bit differently? So it's all about like the situation that you're in.
Yeah.
But I was just saying all that to say is like you might need to just kind of like change things up. For the sake of business, just because we're talking about business right now. But I think when you start doing those things, like you see how good it feels and how people respond to it and the outcome that you're having, and it just may start to become more natural.
Yeah, I 100% agree with that. And I know the type of personality I have. I've been jokingly, but not really joking, saying to you like a couple times over the last couple of weeks, right? Talking about the idea of nice guy syndrome,
Hmm.
which is you can actually do people a massive disservice by not telling them the truth sometimes, just because you don't want to have to deal with the uncomfortability of telling them the truth, right?
Yeah,
And some people are fine with it and they're just very blunt and just can like rip off the band-aid and tell something, if they think something that somebody else is doing is really stupid, they'll just tell them that, right? Or if it's
yeah,
immoral, they'll just tell them that. But sometimes people will do things like, hey, maybe you shouldn't do that, but it's okay. And hey, we're all just people and we all make mistakes and stuff like that. And so I think that people tend to skew one way or another. You either like are way too blunt with people or you tend to have this nice guy person syndrome. or nice person syndrome. I don't know why I said nice guy person, but regardless, like you have whatever the hell that's called, right? And you don't want to tell people the way that it actually is.
Hmm.
And either way, like I think you need to evaluate that and step into the uncomfort of either I need to be more forthcoming with information for people because I think it's going to be more helpful to them, or I need to be softer with people and more patient with people and not get so pissed off at people. And usually what I find is when people are so abrasive and like to tear people down, usually that just comes from a place of insecurity anyway, you know?
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. And I heard this once, and I think it would be helpful. Um, like when you're in those situations where you kind of like have to be a little bit more abrasive, of doing I think it was called like a compliment sandwich or a compassion sandwich, where like
Okay, the complete opposite of the shit sandwich.
you like give a compliment or like say something good, or you're a little like more compassionate and patient, and then like you say the thing you need to say, because sometimes like when there's something that you need to say, there's really no way of like really softening it up, and it might come off a little harsh. So
Yeah.
it's like giving like some patience and compassion, and then saying what you need to say, and then following it up with like something softer
Yeah. Yeah.
to make
Yeah,
sure
you're a
like
nice
that.
guy. You're a complete freaking moron though. But you're funny, you know?
Maybe a little different than that.
Yeah. I mean, that's the
But yeah.
basic gist, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, definitely. You gotta know how to deliver the news. You know, you can't just be brutal to people, you know?
Yeah.
Like I guess where this ties into everything that we're talking about is let's use the example of you're on a consultation and you have somebody that is kind of pushing back against you about what their dog needs. And you're the professional, you see what's going on, you've seen it a million times. So that person just is like, no, I just want you to fix this one problem or something like that, right?
Hmm.
If you just say to them, like, you know, hey, you're wrong, and I know what I'm doing, I'm the professional, and, I don't really want to work with that person, there's a different way to handle that. You may need to really go into the psychology with them of like why they think they only need to fix that one problem and lead them down a path of understanding of, hey, well, what do you think would happen if you fix this problem and then this pops up a week later? Would you prefer to kind of get out of the head of that? Are you the type of person who likes to be preemptive and not have to deal with problems in the future? Or are you okay with fixing one thing only to be right back into the same position 2 weeks later? Like if you go and take your car into a mechanic and they're telling you, you hear a weird sound in your engine and you bring the car in and they start telling you, hey, yeah, it's this problem, but your fan belt is wearing out and that's going to snap in the next couple weeks more than likely anyway. Would you
Hmm.
take that mechanic just and say, you know what, I'll take my chances and I don't really believe you and or are you the type of person who would say, hey, I'm here anyway, let's just get this done right? Using an analogy like that, obviously I'd had to refine that a little bit more, but
Yeah.
the point
Yeah.
stands.
Yeah, I mean, with that specifically, like I personally would be like, no, I'm not fixing all those things. I just want to do this one. But then if they come back and they educate me on why it's important to also fix the fan belt because this then could go wrong and this could go wrong, then I'd
Right.
be like, okay, let's do all of it. So just like
Yeah.
education on the situation in general is important for your client to understand. Like, why is it important for your dog to have like a full foundation of all of this stuff in order to fix this like one main issue?
That's really well said. That's exactly what I was trying to say, Angel, but you just nailed it. Okay. And with that being said, we're gonna wrap it up here because I know that we both have other calls we got to run to.
Hmm.
But I felt like this was a good one, so we're gonna probably stay on this trend of doing it this way, and we're gonna keep doing more, philosophical type conversations. We're gonna do some more of that stuff as well, talking about mindset. I mean, this is the Top Dog Mindset podcast after all. We should probably do that from time to time.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, let's wrap it up here. So as always, I appreciate you guys listening to this and supporting us. If you guys want anything that you want to hear us talk about, anything in particular, could be anything, could be life, could be business, could be dog training questions for Angel, could be literally anything that you want to talk about. Drop them in the comments below, shoot us a message, and we'll make sure to take care of that. So thank you very much, guys. We'll see you guys in the next one. See ya.
Bye, guys.